Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you remain standing for just a moment? Pastor Basio, would you give our invocation, please?
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for an opportunity to serve our city and to serve you. We ask blessing upon this time together, wisdom for all our decisions, and strength for any who are weak and hurting. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Microphone.
Would the clerk take the roll, please?
Councilwoman Gabarecki is asked to be excused. Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
Councilman DeGiulio.
Here.
Councilman Pro Tem Keenan.
Present.
Treasurer Armstrong.
Present.
And Mayor Mategas.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Taking motion for corrections and approval of the agenda for March 11th.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Templin, supported by Mr. Cisco. Any discussion, comment?
Comment, Mr. Chairman, if I may. I had endeavored to place a number of items on the agenda at the request of citizens, and I apparently was overruled. I had asked that we talk about the rules of decorum because you had taken time to go over them last time, and a lot of citizens wondered why this had come up, and I tried to explain as best I could that that had been a long-standing proposition, but people may have forgotten. I also asked that we discuss the financial condition of the city. I asked Ms. Parker if we could have Ms. Bird here to give a detailed report. Apparently, in her wisdom, she felt it was unnecessary, and I also asked about the status of the pension payments owed for last year, and also there was a matter of a allegedly unpaid summer tax payment for the property next door, and I wanted that clarified tonight. But again, I also wrote the city attorney asking him if I had the right to put things on the agenda, and I think I was informed, if I understood his opinion, that we really don't have any authority as a council anymore, only that which is rendered us by our emergency manager. So I just want to go on the record for the people at home that have asked me to put these things on the agenda. That's the answer I was given. Thank you.
If there are no other comments, then I'll ask for a vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. The approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of February 25th. The motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Hayes has moved.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Templin. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, is it possible to add an item on the agenda to go into closed session regarding sale and lease of property?
I think everyone would be very happy to add that. Are there any objections? Okay, that will come after Mr. Pentiock's fireworks. Closed session for purposes of sale of Southfield lease property. If there's no other discussion on the approval of the minutes, I'll ask for that motion to be voted on. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried.
No.
You said no?
Yeah. You mean to go in closed session? Is that what we're talking about, closed session or what?
No, I added that because I asked if there was any objection, and I didn't hear one, so I went back to the original motion, which...
Okay, well, I don't think we need to go into closed session. We can get everything we want to see out to the public.
The EM has asked for a closed session, and the EM under 4636, I think, has the right to set that, and we'll leave that as it is. The citizens' comments, again, Because of a recent meeting of the council and myself, before you come forward to speak, I have been asked to repeat our rules of decorum. They are posted on the right side just after you come in the entrance, but I'll try and go through them as briefly as possible. An individual may only speak on an issue after the individual has been recognized by the chairperson. Comments from the floor shall be made at the podium, at the front of the council table, and such other areas as designated by the chairperson. Prior to an individual speaking from the floor, the individual shall identify themselves and state their address for the record. All comments shall be directed only to chairperson. Speakers are not to address other members of the council or members of the audience. Each member of the public may speak for up to 3 minutes in this first time and 4 minutes at the end of our meeting. All written statements should be given to the city clerk prior to the meeting so that copies may be made available to members of the public body. No individual shall be allowed to make any defamatory attack or invasion of another individual's personal life. There shall be no questions, comments, discussion, or attacks regarding anybody's personal life. The chairperson shall immediately rule out of order any person who begins to bring up such issue. If the chairperson does not, any member of the council may request a ruling of the offending party. If the chairperson does not rule out of order, then the person appeals the decision of the chairperson, and if it's overturned, then the offending person is deemed out of order. If a person making the comments is allowed to continue, the person who is being challenged or whom the comments are made against shall be entitled to make an immediate rebuttal statement. For purpose of these rules, as they relate, elected officials or city officials' term personal life shall refer to anything other than that which is said or done in the person's official capacity as an elected official or in the person's official city capacity. Members of the public body may question the speakers, but the members of the public body are not obligated to answer any questions or make any statements on the issue raised or discussed by the speaker. Issues may be referred to the appropriate body, department, or individual for investigation and review. I think on this matter, if you've asked a question of a specific person through the chair, that person, if they deem that they want to answer, should just say, I will answer that. If there's nothing, then continue your remarks and conclude your remarks. No person or group shall be allowed to disrupt the meetings or proceedings. Any individual who fails to comply with these rules after having first been warned by the chairperson to cease such actions shall be ordered by the chairperson to leave and or be ejected from the meeting. So, with that, we are at citizens' comments on agenda items only, please.
On what you just said, the rules of decorum. One of the rules you stated was that,
You would state your name and your address for the record.
so you are recognizing me.
I am.
Oh, because you haven't in the last several months. Matt Tracer, resident, White Avenue. When you say one of the rules is that we bring paper, printed matter to the council ahead of time. Now, according to the court record, the last time I brought paperwork to your secretary of what I was going to bring forth at that night's meeting, and this is according to the court record, 1 hour after I presented that to your secretary, you went and had a warrant sworn out for my arrest. Is there any assurance to the citizens that should they choose to pre-inform you of what they're going to bring forth to council that night, that 1 hour later you will not be having a warrant sworn out to stop them, to have them arrested going into that meeting?
Name is Malcolm Beaton. Mr. Mayor, a point of privilege on what you read there, okay? It's not on the agenda, but this is the second time you have read that to the people in the audience, okay? A lot of people are taking that as a threat because right away you say something about arresting somebody and having them removed, but you did not put that on the agenda so the public would have a chance to speak on it. Any particular reason why?
Good evening, Brian Diebel, citizen, resident of Allen Park. I have a question, or not question, comments regarding the agenda. I'm one of the people that wrote to Mr. Hayes to get the financial to be discussed and put on the agenda. And I don't understand why we can't have a reasonable discussion about the fiscal stability of the city at a council meeting. We don't have important things put on the agenda anymore. Too many secrets are taking place. Citizen after citizen came up here when you were having the discussion regarding the audit of the city. And we came up here and said that you shouldn't continue with the audit of the city until it was being televised. And yet you proceeded with it, and what you had communicated to us is that the town hall meeting, the financial director was going to come up to speed, and we're going to have a discussion of it at the town hall meeting. Obviously, the town hall meeting took place, and we didn't have a proper discussion about the financial stability of the city. I don't understand why we're trying to hide information from the people. There's too many important decisions that are going to be coming in front of you, and you're going to make a decision, and we would like to have input on it. One of which, the movement of the city hall. We want to have a fair discussion of the pros and cons, how much it's going to cost in order to move the city hall, what are the options, and let's discuss that. The rec center, why can't we have a legitimate discussion, not being told what is exactly going to happen? Why can't we have a legitimate discussion of the pros and cons? How much is it going to cost us to maintain that place? How much is it going to cost us to maintain the ice? How much does it cost us to maintain the complete facility? I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm saying we should have a group discussion about what it's going to cost us. We're not rich. We don't have the luxury of doing a lot of things that we've done in the past, and we need to discuss these things. Everything's not great and wonderful like you want to make it to believe. The town hall meeting was a propaganda situation. We want to talk about the financial stability of the city, and yet that was removed. Any type of reality was removed. We have to be able to talk and address it like adults in an open session. We have to have some communications. We can't hide the information anymore. Thank you.
Are there any other citizens at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to community announcements. And item 1 under the mayor's is I'd like a consent resolution for the 4 items that are before us.
So moved.
Supported.
Moved by Mr. Hayes, supported by Mr. DiGiulio. These are permits for the St. Francis Cabrini Annual Festival, June 6th, 7th, and 8th. The Knights of Columbus Tootsie Rolls for, I don't have the date here, I'm sure it's in our materials. The cable soliciting or Comcast door-to-door permit, and a handbill permit by Rodney Patnaugh. If there's no discussion of the matter, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried.
Through the chair, for the record, I'd like to announce the date. It's going to be the weekend of April 11th, 12th, and 13th for the Tootsie Roll sale. So I apologize about that not being printed.
May have been in their permit, I just didn't
It is,
noted.
but, sorry.
Thank you. Second item, the council work session to discuss the Allen Park Public Library on Monday, March 24th at 6 p.m. I'm asking for that work session. Hopefully everybody can be in attendance.
So moved.
Supported.
Moved by Mr. Hayes, supported by Mr. DiGiulio. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Third item is I will be declaring, or am declaring right now, a snow emergency as of 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're supposed to have 2 inches overnight, and then depending on which magician you're listening to out there, we could have anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snow by the end of the day tomorrow. So I will declare the snow emergency. I've talked to the chief. They will call the media to put that on the radio and TVs to be announced the rest of the evening and tomorrow. Just for information of everyone here tonight, because this won't be put on video, I don't think, until 2 p.m. tomorrow. But if we get over 6 inches of snow, the DPS director has us use the large plows on our equipment to move that much snow. The problem with the large plows are, if we have on the residential streets 2 cars on opposite sides of the street from each other, that plow cannot make it through. That driver will look down your street. If he sees 2 cars opposing, he's going to go by the street, and you'll be picked up at the end of the work. So if you can remember that and advise your neighbors, it is a problem for us, and we just all need to work together to make certain we get the streets plowed as cleanly and quickly as possible. So it will go into effect tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you. Mr. Boomer, I think you have the next item.
Good evening, all. Put my cheaters on here, especially as dark as it seems to be at this podium. Before you is a application for a regulated use permit for the address known as 15550 Southfield Road. Currently, the building is unoccupied, and there was an existing parking lot behind it with the existing screen wall, lighting, dumpster location, etc. On February 6th, the applicant went to the Planning Commission, did receive conditional approval, pending further approval, regulated use approval. Attached in your packet are the is section 52-935, the special approval use standards. And I believe Mr. Peniak would wish that we'd address each one of these standards singularly, making sure that they are addressed as part of the approval process. On the second page is the Planning Commission's recommendation or answers to each one of those 7 standards. The proposal is brought forth by Mr. Pete Zingas. Pete has done other buildings in town. He is here this evening for further questions. I can also take other questions. There are a few other conditions that are in your packet. One is a communication from the police chief that should be included about some of the traffic circulation. Another one deals with an easement agreement, which I haven't seen yet. I don't know if Mr. Zingas has that with him this evening.
Councilman Cisco?
Can you elaborate on the easement agreement?
Yeah, the easement agreement refers to, and we'll go to your map here, and I apologize. As soon as you come off of Southfield Road, you see the 2 arrows that in and out. The property actually divides across there, and there's an easement agreement for that section. I'll say is 50 by 100 feet long to basically get back to the alley agreement. Is that correct? Yeah, that's the area in question. And actually, I apologize. It actually deals with this area right in here. Yeah.
Before, Mr. Zingas, before we have you speak, I should have a motion to put this on the... Sure. Motion by Mr. Keenan.
Supported.
Supported by Mr. DiGiulio. Why don't we let you then come forward and finish your...
Good evening, everyone. My name's Peter Zingas. I'm the developer of the property here. My family has owned it for almost 40 years. The easement that's being explained is really, when we met with the planning committee, the approach that's there is shared by two separate properties. The one that used to be the Fifth Third Bank and the building that we're talking about. So the planning commission said that because it's two different tax parcels, please produce a shared easement for that approach off of Southfield Road because it's the only one. Years back when the DDA came through and they had us take down the big sign and put the DDA sign up and all that, there were two approaches there. One which serviced only this property that's in question today, and then one that serviced the other Fifth Third Bank. So we consolidated the two and have the one. I haven't been able to find the recorded one easement, but if I can't, we have no problem preparing and recording a shared access easement that is being requested by the planning committee. I was almost positive when the DDA, when we went through and got that all approved, that was taken care of, but to be honest with you, I haven't just had a chance to pull it up. The records are really old as far as our documents are concerned, and so I'll have to go to Wayne County and see if I can find the recorded one.
Do any other council people have questions? Councilman DeGiulio.
Mr. Zingas, when they come into your drive-through, they'll come in between Ramshorn and Swarma King, is that correct or not?
No.
How will they drive into the drive-through?
The drive between the Ramshorn and Swarma King is not our property. That's the Ramshorn property, which is also part of the DDA parking lot.
So
They will come through
by
the
bank building?
Right. There's one in between the bank building and this building. That's the one that we're talking about with regards to the easement and the main access point for the property.
And I see there's two empty buildings there, 15550. Swarma King takes one, right?
There's 3 suites there. The one building that the Swarma King is in is the Swarma King, and then this Jimmy John, and then there'll be a middle small,
Okay, I
about
didn't know if
1,200
they
square
were
feet.
both buildings.
Right.
And the bank building, is that where Mamma Mia's was?
Right.
Is that the area?
Right.
Is that your mom?
That's my parents, correct.
Well, tell her thank you, because I have 2 beautiful grandchildren, because she let my son work there. So
Oh, thank you.
I was
I
able
will.
to get a wife for him and 2 beautiful grandkids out of that deal.
Thanks.
Tell her thank you.
Thank you. I'll let her know.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me that. It's really a small development. We're just trying to put someone in an empty building right now, and we're looking for.
Mr. Chairman, I see Ms. Kibbe's here from the DDA. I wonder, does she have any thoughts on this or any comments she'd like to make on behalf or opposed or for, just so we can understand her point of view?
The DDA is thrilled with the project, and I was just emailing our lawyer to see about the easement. That was the first I heard of it, but I'll look and see if he, do you have it?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
wrote down the same thing.
Okay. I think it's a great addition to downtown, and it's a tough location, and I think a name brand chain really does better there and could probably help everybody on the street.
Thank you.
Any other council questions or comments?
I do.
Mayor Pro Tem Keenan.
Mr. Zingas, I want to tell you that I appreciate all your efforts in the city and a lot of I know some of the other properties that you have too. My daughters are as excited as can be because they are huge Jimmy John fans. But part of my responsibility for sitting up here when we have an easement or something like this is to go out and actually do my due diligence, and I did that on Saturday night. I went over and inspected the property, looked at everything, checked out the driveway and all that. And I want to tell you, I don't have a problem with it, but I do think that there's some issues that I'm concerned about. And I just, since you own all the property, I think there are more issues that you're probably going to need to address. And that is, we have a very narrow alley back there, as you know. And as I'm looking at the drawing here, and you have it laid out how the cars are going to come in and drive around to the back of the building. Currently, on Saturday when I went there, the tenants in the existing building are parking their vehicle in the alley so that there's no entrance into the alley from the Ramshorn side of the property and no egress out of the alley from your side of the property.
Yeah, they shouldn't be blocking the alley.
Trust me, I know.
First, it's not an alley anymore. It's been vacated. So,
Okay.
there's a lane there, but in terms of, being an alley anymore. It really doesn't lead to anywhere other than
Maybe that's
that,
not the
but-
right word, but needless
No,
to
but
say,
I-
you're gonna need to have access if cars are gonna drive back there.
Right.
The second problem that I had was even though, and I see it on the drawing here, that you have the existing trash enclosure in the far back corner of the property, they have a temporary, like a Rubbermaid type trash enclosure outside the back door that when I was there on Saturday was overflowing with food garbage, that I'm sure that somebody in a drive-through sitting in line waiting, quite frankly, doesn't want to smell. So I think that there's some issues that need to be addressed, and I trust that I know, you and your family well enough to know that they'll get addressed. But I will tell you that my concern is with all the traffic back there, it's just that it's maintained. And that's the only thing I wanted to share with you, already, and it's been a short window. I was at the ribbon cutting just, I think, a week or two ago, and I go up 2 weeks later, and there's, there was other issues too, but
Yeah.
those were the two that really jumped out at me. So, maybe just, if you could kind of.
Oh, Mr. Keenan, thank you for telling me. Let me give the council a little background. My family takes great pride in every real estate we own. We own quite a bit, not just in Allen Park, but throughout southeast Michigan. In Allen Park, if you look at our properties, we own the AutoZone, the Cartoons building, the former Denny's, which is the Star Diner that we're putting the Chinese restaurant in. We developed both Dollar Generals. The one in Allen Road that used to be the farmer's market is our family's. We just developed the Bambi's floral mat, the former little hall, and we put a tenant in there. It's a peanut company, which is doing well. We did there used to be the flower shop on Eureka. That Dollar General was ours. We developed that. So every property that we identify to develop, we want to make sure that it's kept clean and of first quality. And so I appreciate you telling me that. It bothers me a little bit that because my tenant, the shawarma, has just been there for a week or a couple weeks to just open up. And they're not supposed to have the bin there. I pay every month to have that garbage bin in the back. So that I will get on them regarding that. Just so you know, the site plan calls for, and we will have signage. It'll be a one-way in that alley from now on. They will not be able to park back there. And it's our intention to, the building is going to be fixed up, and the parking lot will, and the lighting will, and it'll be developed. And we're talking to people, we're pretty close for the middle unit, a retail user. We're also, by the way, we also own we purchased the Boomers Bar building. So we have quite a few properties in Allen Park, and we're not done. But we're also looking, we have people that we're talking to with our closed Fifth Third Bank building. And so we're still, pushing, and we're making sure that we're doing our part as property owners to make sure that not only this site with the Jimmy John's, but all of our properties are kept up in Allen Park. We're very proud. We've been here for a long time.
And we appreciate
and
it.
we're not going anywhere.
And I hear a rumor that your mom wants to come back, and I want to tell you that I will give her my vote for that too.
That's the
We miss her.
you want to know something? Every time a building's empty, my dad and my mom says, "Let's go back. Let's go back." But yeah, thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And I agree with you with regards to maintaining and making sure that those issues don't exist.
Are there any other comments from the council or questions?
I just have to say to Mr. Zingas is that your properties are well kept up, and you have done extensive work to a lot of the buildings. And so that is nothing but a plus for Allen Park. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll just make one other note or comment. In the minutes of the meeting, we did have one resident that spoke in about the proposal. It was the only resident either for or against. With some of the issues we had with the commissions, we actually had 2 separate mailings out. We did have a representative to the first meeting that was canceled. No resident showed up at that point. So from 2 mailings to all the residents within the 300 feet, we did have one comment from Mr. Paul Redman, just on some general concerns on the noise. But I just want to bring that to your attention. There's one person that spoke at the public hearing. So.
Mr. Boomer, this did not have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
No.
Because it's just a special use that brings it directly to the council. There's no other variances or other things.
That's correct. It went to the Planning Commission and to this body for recommendation for the regulated use approval.
And Planning and zoning says
They-
they approved, subject to a shared access agreement being
Right,
recorded or
there's 4
being
provisions down there.
acknowledged.
Was the documentation from the police department approval, which I have the email from the chief. The shared easement agreement, which is yet to be seen. The one-way signage upon completion in the alleyway, and the updated drawing, which this really is the updated drawing. The drawing that went to the site plan was much harder to read. It had a lot more information, and it was really hard to disseminate exactly the traffic patterns, so.
Could I ask the two council persons that made the motion, do we want to condition the motion based on the 3 items that Dave said there? The special shared access agreement, that the one-way signage, and the other, what was the 3rd item, Dave? I'm sorry.
The documentation from the police department, which should be included in there. And then you have the shared easement agreement, the one-way signage upon completion in the alleyway, and the updated drawing.
I would agree with that amendment.
Mr. Giglio?
I think Mr. Zingas will do whatever he says he's gonna do, and I'm sure he would, agree to do, anything that we felt needed to be done, so I don't think we need it.
The one question I would ask through Mr. Pendak is, do we have to approve it holistically, or do you need to go at each provision of the standard and have a documentation thereof?
Well, I assume that the motion entails a recitation of all of the standards and the fact that all of them
Have been addressed.
And as to the support of the motion, I think that I'm hearing that there is an objection to the 4 provisos, so I think that the motion and support is present.
I think it's actually only 2, because the 2 of the items of
Have
the
been-
4 have been dealt with. The documentation, we have the document from the police department, and we have the updated drawing. So it's just the shared easement agreement and the vacated alley, or the one-way signage for the vacated
Yeah.
alley, so.
That is correct.
And that is in the,
Yeah.
okay, so that would be covered under the motion anyway. We don't really need it then.
Correct.
All right. I stand corrected then. We really don't need those, and you're right, Councilman DiGiulio. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask for the motion. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Go to
Mr. Zingas?
the city attorneys and
Do you have a copy of it?
Back with your agenda. Just separated.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We have before us ordinance 012104. This is an ordinance of the City of Allen Park Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 18, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 3, Fireworks, by the repeal of Sections 1861 to 1866, and to readopt Section 1861 to regulate and limit the use of fireworks. This was before us before. We've had 2 readings. I believe the clerk has published this, and at this point, I believe we would have a public hearing on it.
we would.
And by way of reference for the audience, this is simply updating our local ordinance to reflect what the state law now provides.
The state did amend their
state
statute,
yes.
which limited the use of the fireworks, and so we could amend our ordinance to so follow. I will open the meeting for public hearing, so if there's any citizens who want to come back and comment on this proposed ordinance, please come forward.
Do you want me to read more of it?
I'm going to say the 3 things that changed. Yeah, they'll know then.
Well, let me give you the highlights. So you have the entire context. We're dealing with fireworks. It's unlawful for any person to ignite, discharge, or use fireworks except on the day preceding, the day of, or the day after a national holiday. No person at any time or on any national holiday or otherwise use or discharge or ignite fireworks in public parks, public streets, public schools, public sidewalks, public easements or rights-of-ways, or other public property. No person shall at any time or on any day, national holiday or otherwise, use, discharge, ignite any fireworks on the property of another person or organization without that organization or person's express permission to use fireworks on those premises. The person using the fireworks bears the burden of proof of showing he or she received express permission to use fireworks at that location and must be able to present such proof to any peace officer upon request. No person shall at any time or on any day, national holiday or otherwise, use, discharge, or ignite any fireworks in such manner or way that results in fireworks being projected or propelled onto the property of another person without that person's express permission to project or propel fireworks on their premises. The person using the fireworks bears the burden of proof of showing that he or she received express permission to project or propel fireworks onto the property of another person and must be able to present such proof to any peace officer upon request. No person shall use, discharge, or ignite any fireworks between the hours of 12 midnight and 8 o'clock a.m. on the day preceding, the day of, or the day after a national holiday, or between the hours of 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. on New Year's Day, so as to preserve and not disturb the peace or ability to sleep of residents.
That's what I was looking for, Randy. I don't think you need to go any further. Most of the rest of it is just servability.
Thank you.
So,
You want to know what the national holidays are?
well, no, I just wanted the citizens to hear that on the day before, the day of, or the day after a holiday, fireworks can only be blown off between 8 a.m. and 12 midnight, with the exception of New Year's Day, where it will go to 1 in the morning. Other than that, that's the times. I think that's what the citizens need to know.
Okay.
That puts us in line with state law.
Right.
Any citizens have any comments or questions on the statute?
My name is Andrea Hammond. Am I to understand that you just opened this to a public meeting?
Public hearing
Public hearing
on this ordinance.
on this ordinance. I don't see anything in the agenda. You guys voted to amend the agenda to add Mrs. Parker's meeting afterwards, but I don't see anything on this agenda for a public hearing. Are you going to go back and re-vote on the agenda to amend it to add a public hearing? I mean, what's going on here? You guys are, you know, does anybody know what you're doing? Or is this just willy-nilly, fly-by-the-pants type of government anymore? Thank you.
Oh, did you want to make that?
This is a public hearing on the
That's what I'm
fireworks ordinance, okay?
That's what I want to address.
Sure, then come forward, please.
Robert Armstead, Allen Park resident. I just want to know, and I had an issue last year with the fireworks going off at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Could you just address what the penalty would be, something like that? That's my comment. Am I clear?
It's a $500 penalty. It's a misdemeanor, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It's a municipal civil infraction, punishable by a fine of not more than $500.
Okay?
Could the attorney tell us what the national holidays are?
Yeah.
Yes.
National holidays means New Year's Day, January 1, birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., the third Monday in January, Washington's birthday, the third Monday in February, Memorial Day, the last Monday in May, Independence Day, July 4, Labor Day, the first Monday in September, Columbus Day, the second Monday in October, Veterans Day, November 11th, Thanksgiving Day, the fourth Thursday in November, and Christmas Day, December 25.
If there are no other citizens coming forward, I'm going to close the meeting and ask that we have a motion for passage of the ordinance.
Motion.
Mr. Cisco has moved, Mr. Keenan has supported. Is there any further discussion of the matter? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please, Mr. Clerk.
Whereas a hearing was conducted by law and it was a public hearing in reference to ordinance number 01-2014 and an ordinance to amend Chapter 18, Article 3 to limit the use of fireworks. Shall this ordinance pass? And we'll start with Councilman DiGiulio.
Yes.
Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Keenan.
Yes.
Mayor Mategas.
Yes.
Councilman Cisco.
Yes.
Councilman Templin.
Yes.
The yeses have it. This ordinance shall be ordained, and I will publish it in the manner prescribed by law. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to a closed session, we will go to citizens' questions and comments at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The name is Malcolm Beaton. Through the chair, I would like to address Joyce Parker. A couple of weeks ago, Ms. Parker, you had a meeting with the mayor and the council out of town in Romulus, I believe. I have a question with that. We have City Hall here, a lot of rooms. We have those buildings behind us sitting empty. We have the Civic Center sitting empty. You had a proctor there, I believe, at about $1,500. You had a catered lunch. You could not have that meeting in Allen Park. You could not get a couple of catering outfits, maybe Liberati's Catering, Tim's Coney Island, to take care of the luncheon for the mayor and the council. How can you waste taxpayers' money? Ever since I came to this microphone to ask the people to vote for that tax increase August 6th for police and fire protection, all of a sudden, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Pentuck, you're the only one that can spend money in this town. All of a sudden, you have money to spend. Are you the same Joyce Parker that's working for the city of South Haven on the west side of the state, looking for a city administrator for that town? You could probably answer me when I leave. Don't take up my time. But I am all for saving taxpayers' money. We don't have that many people working in this town. Do we really need a city administrator for $100,000 a year? You only have 6 women working in City Hall, maybe a handful in DPW. If you're busy on the west side of the state, I'm sure, as intelligent as the mayor is, he would be glad to sit in anything that a city administrator would have to do. He's very capable of doing, and look at the money you're going to save. You know how many potholes in this town that $100,000 could fill? You're spending money like a drunken sailor. I don't like it. I will be back up at this microphone at every opportunity when I find out you are wasting city taxpayers' money. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Brian Debo, resident of Allen Park. Along those same lines, I brought up last meeting talking about the overtime. I talked about how we spent $666,000 last fiscal year. In the first 6 months of this year, from July through December 31st, we spent another $302,000. That's a total of $968,000 in a year and a half, almost $1 million in a year and a half. We passed the millage for $5 million, and yet we spent $1 million, almost $1 million in a year and a half. I do have a question for the city administrator, if I may. We were informed at the town hall meeting that the city administrator runs the day-to-day operation of the city. And I'd like to be able to ask her a question, if I may.
You can ask the question. As I said in the rules of decorum.
If she doesn't want to answer. Okay. Right. My question is, I believe that we have a serious problem with the overtime. My question is, what is the proper amount of the overtime? Is it $600,000 a year? Is it $500,000 a year? I mean, what is the target number? What is the proper number for a city this size so we can have expectations in the future? The reason why I asked the city administrator is because we're going to be transitioning to her running the city in some months from now, and I'd like to know what her perspective is. Okay, let me ask this question. Does the city administrator think it's a problem that us spending $1 million, approximately $1 million, in a year and a half? Does that appear to be a problem? Okay. Since we're not hearing any answers on those questions, then let me really state seriously, not the other conversation was serious too, I'm very much concerned. We're going to make some major decisions here about the South Lease properties, about City Hall moving, about the rec center. And to be quite honest, I don't know if the people that are present here are capable of making that decision. I think you need outside people to come in and help you make those decisions. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. When you're over your head, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. It's okay. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what you do. When you don't know something, it's okay to admit you don't know something. You guys weren't elected up here because you're experts on everything that takes place in the city. Ask for the help. I really believe that you need it, and there's no reason why you can't. We cannot afford another mistake, and that's where we're going to. We're going to make some more mistakes in the future. The EM's going to be leaving. I mean, take a look at the rec center. My gosh. We brought on some people, and we let them go. We just sit there and said, run the rec center, and 6 months later, we checked up on them. Look what happened. By the way, has anybody gone to the state, seeing how the management over there failed while we were underneath the EM? And we obviously had no oversight going on over there, not the proper oversight that you would see any place in the private sector. Took place while we're under state control. Do we have any remedies with the state we're going to incur a lot of different costs because of the mismanagement over there. Do we have any remedies with the state to offset some of these costs that we're going to incur because it happened while they had control over the city? I really do believe you should be taking a look at that. We should have some ramification. I mean, there should be something that we can get because it happened underneath the EM. It happened underneath the state control. Thank you.
Are you going to recognize me?
Yes, sir. Your name?
Matt Tracer. I mean, they are the rules. Okay, I was going to read the same statement again for the 5th time, but it went out over the airwaves, and I'd like to thank all the new believers that Matt is not the problem. And I'm going to impart a little wisdom on Mr. Chairman. When I studied parliamentary procedure at Wayne, one of the things that they taught us was Robert's rules, or any rules, are meaningless if the chair's intention is to inhibit the free movement of ideas and speech. There's no rule that can be used to combat a chair who wants to control the message. You are not a judge. This is not a courtroom where you can slam the gavel and tell people to sit down. This is an open meeting from the citizens of this city, You're not fooling anyone with your extreme attempts to control the message to the general public. It's shameful, it's obvious, and it's just inconceivable, no matter what a citizen comes up here and says, that you would stifle that in any way. And every move you make for the last couple meetings has been to make sure you're in charge of the message. You, sir, are not in charge of the message. The citizens are. And every time you try to exert your will to limit the message to what you want, more and more people are going to see you for what you really are. You don't want what's best for this town. If you did, these meetings would be open. What you do want, who knows? But your actions, meeting after meeting after meeting, seem to display a contempt for your own citizenry, which is appalling. And just, who do you think you are?
Andrea Hammond, I live on LeBlanc Street in Allen Park. I'm very, very concerned that the EM has rendered this council impotent. I'm also very concerned that the EM is hiding the true financial picture of the city of Allen Park. I recently sent an email asking why the summer taxes and the winter taxes on the buildings next door were not paid. I truly believe that had I not sent that email, they would not have been paid on February 28th either. I'm also concerned that the city of Allen Park has closed these offices to the general public on Fridays so that the employees can catch up on their work. That is in Mrs. Parker's financial plan to the state of Michigan. I'm concerned that when I questioned that our treasurer told Senator Hopgood's office that, and I quote, she's backdating taxes because the citizens were not able to come into City Hall on Friday, February 28th, and make their payments. They had to put them in a drop box, or they went through U.S. mail. It's my understanding that the city clerk goes every day to the post office and picks up the U.S. mail. It's my understanding that you have city employees working on Friday. Why didn't one of them go out to the drop box and pick up those payments? I'm also concerned that by not paying those summer taxes back in August when they were due, and I was here in August, and I chastised several of you people for paying your taxes past the due date, which was August 15th. I'm concerned that those taxes from August involved a large majority of school taxes, and that the EM, and by you going along with it, not saying anything, are depriving the children in the Allen Park school system of that money that they need for their education. I'm also concerned that when I had a problem with the treasurer back in August when she did not post my taxes that were checks she received in July and didn't post it until after, no, she never did post it until I called, that she told me personally that she cannot backdate to a prior month, but yet she told Senator Hopgood's office that she's doing that, that on March 3rd, she was backdating taxes to February 28th. I also checked today at the Wayne County website, and as of today, those taxes are still not shown paid on the Wayne County website. Thank you.
Walter Danik, Bel Air Avenue. I'm looking on the agenda and at the upcoming meetings. And Mr. Mayor, back a few months ago, some people were removed from the festivities committee, and we were told they were going to be reappointed. Do we have a festivities committee?
Yes, we do. They have been reappointed.
All the same people are on that committee?
Yes.
Councilman Cisco,
Yes.
help me? Yeah.
Yes.
They are the same people then.
Okay. Also, a couple weeks back, I got to meet the track coach, one of the track coaches at Allen Park High School, and I had purposely asked him about the record board. And he said that when the Center of the Arts was built, that got put back behind the stage, and then somebody was using that area and inadvertently it disappeared. But he has all those records, and he told me that they needed $1,500 to get a new track board. Now, since the festivities committee has decided not to give out $1,000 scholarships to the young people, it might be a good idea if they donated a school record track board to the Allen Park High School. And also the permit fees. Who determines what the permit fee is going to be?
Through the chair, they've been set by previous resolutions. I think one of the last time I put up for fee increase, December of 11, maybe, December of 12. I can't remember exactly, I don't have it in front of me, but they're a set amount. The only one that did change is for, we do now charge a $2 processing fee for the nonprofits. So, but other than that, our fees have been pretty regular. And actually, one or two of them went down that time because they were way out overpriced than other cities, so.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay, people have been, my name's Albert Jinsky, Vine Avenue. People have been complaining about the overtime that people are working. Well, if we work everybody just 8 hours the rest of the week, you know, we want our streets clean, we've got to work overtime. I mean, you have to. If you work everybody 8 hours, they're going to be happy, but streets ain't going to be, streets will not be plowed. Also, you guys were all happy tonight about going into the meeting afterwards to discuss the property next door. Is anything going on that is coming to fruition? To the chair, to Ms. Parker. Is there anything coming to fruition with next door?
Yeah, I'm not really able to discuss anything at this point, but, you know, we are getting closer.
Is that why they took the one for sale sign down?
Not sure about that.
Because it was gone yesterday. Also, Mr. Mayor, you made reference to the rules of decorum for the public. What about when a council person breaks the rules and attacks other people? Nothing happened. We have a one-way rule affecting the public, but not the council person that is breaking these rules of decorum. And also, thank you for making the snow emergency now. Everybody be safe. Thank you.
Dr. Robert Armstead, citizen at Allen Park. First of all, I wanted to thank the Allen Park Police Department. I was at the Shell station at Outer Drive in Southfield today, and I pulled up and noticed this older lady. She was needing assistance by a couple of the police officers. One of the officers happens to be in the audience today. And from my observation, she looked like she was suffering maybe some Alzheimer's or something like that. She seemed disorientated. One officer parked her car while the other officer got her to the police car, and they were very respectful of this lady. I watched them for the longest time. So I just wanted to thank the Allen Park Police Department for respecting somebody. And I don't even think she was from our city, but it doesn't make a difference. Thank you, officers. I spoke to you briefly, Mayor. I have a letter. I'm in possession of a letter from Hopgood, and I'm not going to read it all. I'll just get to the gist of it. But would you like the full letter to look at right now or later?
Well, they have to go through the clerk to
come
come up.
Okay. I just sent this letter to State Treasurer Clinton about 5:45 this evening. According to State Senator Hopgood, the state has been improperly charging the city of Allen Park for the health care insurance for emergency manager Joyce Parker. Has this been corrected by the state yet? Further, I request an itemized breakdown of all the insurance charges to the city of Allen Park concerning this insurance matter, and fully expect the state to reimburse the city of Allen Park for these insurance charges. Through the chair, Ms. Parker, do you know if the state has reimbursed the city yet, or if they will?
Would you like for me to comment?
Would you like to respond?
If you want to, Ms. Parker.
I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the DTE bill and the charges over at the rec center by previous corporations running it, I'm estimating possibly $300,000 or more in charges that the city's going to have to incur. And I would like to see, since the emergency manager and the state, we are under state receivership, that we don't pay a dime for it, that the state reimburses us for any of those costs. Also, I'd like to address the sale or lease of the property next door. I'm very concerned if we get into a land contract, especially if it is with an industrial company over there. It could work out to this company's total advantage with a land contract, that we will be subsidizing that land contract, especially if we move over there and we pay high rent to the company. I'm estimating right now, because Mr. Boomer had indicated a while back to me that he offered Roush $15 million to buy the property next door. And that was over a year ago, so I would estimate that Roush would be, if they're one of the contenders, would narrow that down. And I also read in the paper that there was something like a couple companies that were looking at the property and said there was like $7 million in repairs and renovations over there. So we may be selling that property for $4 to $6 million. We paid over $25 million for it. I really don't want to get into a land contract. If we sell it for $6 million and they walk away, we'll have to eat it. But to get into a land contract, we're not in that business, and we're gonna suffer. One day down the line, they could just walk away from the land contract after 5 years, and we could be stuck with that property. Thank you.
Jennifer Codd, Allen Park resident. Some residents up here that come up here and say things to you guys, it's ridiculous. They come up here and they start a fight, and then, then they're crying that, oh, my feelings got hurt, It's crazy that people just do this, and then they think that you guys are not going to have any repercussions on them. So I just wanted to let that known, and you can't go around trying to call somebody a name and trying to pick a fight and then say, oh, I'm being bullied, You need to watch your mouth before you come up and say something to somebody. Or you need to back it up. And if you can't back it up, you need to quit come up here every week and complaining about it. Thank you.
Can you relate to any of the council people?
Please.
No, I'm not going to be intimidated by that.
Any other citizens? I see none coming forward. We'll go to the council's comments before we take a brief adjournment and then go to closed session. And tonight we will start with Mayor Pro Tem Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I guess I hadn't really planned on saying too much tonight, but I will just say that it seems ironic to me that some of the comments tonight, specifically at our emergency manager, are by some of those that were the most vocal advocates for bringing an emergency manager into town. And now that the emergency manager came into town and didn't do what they want her to do, they want to come up and chastise her and us and everybody else. And it seems like people are content with somebody coming in and clipping our wings, but when the citizens' wings get clipped along with them, then it becomes an issue. And I think that's sad. I think that I shared it, I think the last meeting or the meeting before, that just because we don't respond to all in emails does not mean that we're not sending emails and that we're not doing our due diligence and communicating with the emergency manager and the administrator some of our concerns. Some of us choose to do that vocally here in a manner that, in my opinion, is meant to embarrass somebody or to belittle somebody or trying to ruin somebody's reputation. That's not what I'm about. But I think that there's several people up here, and I do see a lot of the emails that are bringing a lot of your concerns and are voicing them. But the reality is as was said tonight, under Public Act 436, the emergency manager has all control. She is not, and let me just be clear with this, she is not the emergency financial manager. That changed. She is the emergency manager, period, over every aspect of we are only sitting up here because she allows us to. The closed session that we're going to go into right now is only because she's going to try to share some information with us. We have no decision-making authority on anything that happens. And the last thing I'll say about the emergency manager is every single thing that she does has to be vetted through the state. So when you talk about bringing professionals in and what have you, it's not just her making the decision. She outlines what she thinks should happen, and then it goes up to the state to a review board. And again, correct me if I'm wrong as usual, but it goes up to the review board to be able to, for their buy-off on anything that happens. So, for instance, tonight we're talking about the studio property. If that property's sold, it won't be because anybody up here said that they want that. It's going to be because that's the emergency manager's recommendation, and she will take our input. But ultimately, it comes down to the state buying off on it, and I think we need to be clear about that. This isn't a one-man show here, or one-woman show, so to speak. But anyway, I appreciate your comments. I think that there is some concerns. I appreciate when we get emails that bring things to our attention, because you guys are out. I mean, we can't be in all places at all time. So I appreciate your emails, but again, don't think because we don't respond to all. And I said before, if you send an email directly to me, you will expect a response from me. If you carbon copy me on an email that you send to Ms. Parker, that's not an email to me. I don't reply to those. I take that as you letting me know that you sent that email, and I appreciate that. But that doesn't call for me to respond. If you want me to respond, you send me an email. Thank you.
Councilman Cisco.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I have a question to ask the high school seniors that are here. You think you're having a snow day tomorrow? Can I see a show of hands if you think you're going to have a snow day tomorrow?
You can only pray.
Well, good luck on that. I think you might, but we'll see. I wanted to, I read an article recently about how we got in this situation a little bit. And of course, we've all lived this in a way. And part of the problems we have are obviously post-retirement costs. There was obviously a steep decline in property values, but there's a third part of this that we've touched on lately that has not ever really been talked about. And there's a lot of people that come up to the podium that don't address this part of it maybe as strongly as they should. And that is the dramatic reduction in state revenue sharing. The state changed the rules and took away our funding. Not saying that we didn't have things to fix, but one of the big reasons we are in this situation is not just because of the studio property and some other things, but the state took our revenue sharing. I would like to see some of the people that come up here and say certain things, write the governor and ask him to restore our revenue sharing so we can operate properly. This is an understood bond between the local government and the state. The revenue sharing comes from sales tax. It's supposed to come back to us, and it's not. They've taken away our revenue sharing and balanced the books in Lansing. So now they have a surplus. On the backs of who? On all of you. And that's just a fact. In fact, some of the facts is from 2003 to 2013, the state revenue collection of taxes increased from 6.6 billion, that's B with a, not an M, B billion, to 7.72 billion in those 10 years. In that same time, the revenue sharing to municipalities went from 900 million to about 250 million. So we depended upon the state to give us revenue sharing, and it's not there. So for all those anti-government people that come up, I'd like you to write some letters to the governor about revenue sharing. Get together and start demanding that our local municipalities get back their revenue sharing. One of the reasons why we have a problem. It's one of the big reasons. Promises were made to local governments, and they used our money to balance their books. So if you want to talk about taxes increases or anything, talk to the governor. That's where it lays. It lays at his feet, and the legislators at their feet. And for that, I thank everybody for coming out. Thank you.
Councilman Templin.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Be real careful tomorrow with this snowstorm, and let's hope that it's the last one of the year. Have a good night.
Councilman DiGiulio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. You know, the way I feel about closed session, since we really don't have a vote, Mrs. Parker has the final say. I see no reason why we vote on there. So that's why I voted no. I don't see us going into them anyway. Citizens deserve to know what's going on in their city. And I have no objection to Mr. Herndon sitting here at the dais, but I'd like to see Mr. Goodwin sitting in the extra chair too, or any other news reporters that come into our council meetings. I think they all have the right to sit up here and see what's going on and listen to the residents. So, and I guess I did ask 2 weeks ago about the water bill, and nobody seemed to know the answer to it, but I want to thank you, Mrs. Parker, for letting me know it's $18,359 that Temple Entertainment owes on the water bill at the community center. That's $18,359 on top of the over $160,000 that's owed on the DTE bill. And if we get that 5 or more inches of snow tomorrow, you'll see a sign in the window at my barber shop, you need a haircut today, cut it yourself. So with that, I'm going to say thank you and good night.
Councilman Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very proud to be an Irish American, and St. Patrick's Day is next Monday, the 17th, so I thought I'd share a little bit of background for all of us. And let me start out by saying that the great statesman Winston Churchill used to say, he wasn't a big fan of the Irish, he said, "We have always found the Irish to be a bit odd. They refuse to be English." But you got to give even your enemy his due. because he said this, which I think is something we could take a lesson from. The further back you can look, the further forward you are likely to see. Now let me just read a few statistics I got in a national magazine of an organization I belong to. Almost one half of George Washington's troops were Irish by either birth or descent, and among them 1,500 were officers and nearly half of his generals were Irish. At least 11 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Irish by birth or descent. 250 Irish names were engraved on the memorial honoring the defenders of Bunker Hill. 22 of 54 Americans killed at Lexington and Concord were Irish Americans. The father of the American Navy is Commodore John Barry of County Wexford, Ireland. County Meath, Ireland native John Thompson became the first U.S. Army general when his Pennsylvania Rifle Battalion was designated as the 1st Continental Regiment. The Battle of New Orleans was won by General and later President Andrew Jackson, whose roots were in County Antrim, Northern Ireland. America was preserved by the overwhelming number of Irish who enlisted in the Union Army just before and during the Civil War. There were 38 companies and regiments with the word Irish in their names. The most famous, distinguished, and celebrated military unit in our nation's history was a legendary Irish brigade led by General Thomas Francis Maher, who I referred to once before here, who was born in Waterford, Waterford County, Ireland, the ancestral homeland of the Kennedys. County, had been convicted of sedition by the British and sent to Australia Penal Colony, from which he escaped and came to New York. He was made a brigadier general, formed the Irish Brigade by recruiting Irish arriving immigrants. The most famous of his regiments was the Fighting 69th. 257 native-born Irish have been awarded the Medal of Honor, more than twice as many as any other foreign-born group. The Irish flag stands inside the Alamo in recognition of the largest ethnic group to give their lives in its defense, among them Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, and William Travis. The only U.S. ship named for a plant in the United States is the USS Shamrock, a Civil War blockade runner. Charles Hoban of Kilkenny, Ireland, designed and built the White House and repaired it after its attack and burning in 1814. He also helped build the Capitol. Additionally, the Irish have led the labor movement in America with such leaders as John Mitchell, Mother Jones, Mike Quill, Bill Tracy, Matt Gwynn, Teddy Gleason, John Law, Sarah McLaughlin, Julia O'Connor, Jack Gannon, John Kelly, John Sweeney, John Brophy, Pascal McGinnis, Richard Kilroy, Jimmy Duffy, and the father of Labor Day, Peter McGuire. So there's just a few attributes, some of the contributions of the people from whom I come. I was fortunate to be born of an Irish mother and an Irish father whose parents were all Irish, and I'm very proud. I see Mr. O'Neill is here. Mr. Sullivan was here earlier. I'm sure there's other Irish out there. And just remember to be safe on St. Patrick's Day, and remember St. Joseph's Day, which follows 2 days later for the Polish friends. Wolkowitz, Wojcinski, these kinds of guys will be celebrating St. Joseph's Day with their kielbasa and beer on Wednesday, the 19th. So God bless you all, and thank you for coming.
Treasurer Armstrong.
I'd like to address some of Andrea Hammond's concerns. First off, yes, we were closed on the 28th, and yes, I did check the blue box and posted several tax payments. I also received mail from Mike Mizzy's office that was posted. But you have to understand that the last day to pay taxes is the 28th of February. And if you choose to pay a tax bill through official payments, that information does not come over to me until the following day, which would be a Saturday. Therefore, on the 3rd of March, which was the following Monday, I posted not only the official payments, but any other mail that was in the blue box that I did not pick up on Friday when I was here at work, and any mail that Mr. Mizzy may have delivered to us that he received at the post office. As to your concern about the Wayne County file that is showing the delinquent taxes for the city of Allen Park, the reason that it shows delinquent is because the Wayne County Treasurer requires me to present them with a preliminary delinquent roll of all taxes by the 28th of February. I sent that to them on the 27th. They load that into their system, and they do not change that until I send the final bill down, or the final roll down to them, which will be later on this month. And as to the reflection of late payments for several of the council people, I think including mine, that you addressed earlier in the year, as I explained to you that evening, many of us have a mortgage company that pays through a tax file. I might get my mortgage payment for my taxes taken out of my account on August the 1st, but it does not come to the city of Allen Park on August the 1st. And I certainly, as one person in the treasurer's office, do not have the time to load that by the 15th of August. Therefore, if I load it on the 26th of August, it's going to reflect that date. That does not mean that each of us up here have not been on time with our payment. That payment was taken out of our escrow account on a timely matter. It's just the period of time between when I get that file and when I load it. So if you're questioning whether or not we're doing any work here on the 28th of February, we are. But I have to take into account those people who have put their tax bill in the mail, have dropped it off at that box, or had put it through official payments, and therefore I backdate anything that I received on the 3rd to the 28th of February. I hope that answers your questions.
Clerk Mizzy.
I'd just like to point out that the, excuse me, the Allen Park Friends of the Library and the Library Advisory Committee are now collecting any used books. I know for certain there is a drop-off basket in my office, and they will accept them over at the library. So if you have any used books laying around the house, please feel free to take it over to them. You know, some people hold on to those classics, think they're going to have time to reread them, but just imagine, while it's sitting there collecting dust, someone else can enjoy it. Especially, I'm not too much big of a reader. I have a Kindle, but my son, who's a second grader, has been really liking books. So I can understand with the cost of books where the library is a godsend. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for their comments. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. God bless you and good night.
City Administrator Folks, would you like to address the audience?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to make comments on about 3 different things. First of all, the website, you're going to see that over the next couple of months, that in fact there's going to be some updating. We are working with the professional to get that process started. Second thing, with the community center, I first and foremost want to thank everyone in the community who has lent their support and provided patience as we begin this transition. We are very much focused on regaining control, and as we have more to report to the community, we will do so. The other thing that I'd like to mention along those lines is I'm very excited with the number of folks in the community that have come forward and offered not just verbal support, but would like to be involved in a volunteer capacity. I think that in the future, there are numerous ways in which volunteers are going to be able to help. So thank you for that. I'll also point out that on our website, you will see that we are moving ahead, and there is the posting for a Director of Leisure and Community Center Services. So we have now taken that critical step as well. Last, and certainly not least, I want to thank the community for their tremendous support for our visioning event, which took place on March 1st. And we had so many folks turn out, and even when they were given breaks, much less an opportunity to have lunch, they stuck right with it. There is an energy in this community that is exciting to see. I think that in the end result, we are going to have a strategic plan that is accessible and doable. And I want to especially recognize that we had a number of donors, entities, as well as individuals. And without your support, personal and corporate, it just wouldn't have been possible. So I want to thank the community for their financial support for this visioning process. And last, it is so exciting when we have the youth of this community that step forward and want to be a part of the future. And we had a number of youth that were there for the visioning event. And believe me, your input was listened to very carefully. I also want to point out that the video that was put together, I was so pleased that we could capture not only Mr. Zahn's comments, but also some comments and input from the youth of this community. Anyone who has seen that video knows that there's an entire little segment in there that encourages our youth to become more active in helping to design a very successful future. So once again, my thanks to you, and if it snows tomorrow, be very careful. Thank you.
Emergency Manager Parker.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, supporting the city. Secondly, certainly everyone may not agree with everything that occurs related to the city, but I would like to read a statement related to some of the issues that have come up most recently. Following up on our recent first quarter town hall meeting, we want to reach out to Allen Park residents who were unable to attend on February 18th to ensure they have a good understanding of what we discussed that evening and to clarify some misinformation that has been shared since by a small but vocal group of naysayers. Our goal is to ensure that we are all working together to return Allen Park to its rightful place as the pearl of Downriver, a city all its residents can be proud of. The mayor and city council have worked collaboratively with the emergency manager and her staff to meet the goals and objectives in our financial and operating plan. And that's important because the plan is the blueprint in terms of moving forward under state receivership. And for that, we are thankful. In addition, city staff members have gone above and beyond the call of duty to provide better services and enhance the lives of our residents. Yes, they are paid to do this work, and thankfully, many take their responsibilities very seriously. They should be commended for not just punching in. In many instances, they are doing more and getting paid less, and for that, thanks are in order. We also believe it is important to recognize the efforts of many who are not paid for their efforts, such as members of the Allen Park Advisory Committee and others who freely give their time and effort. Now, to what we have accomplished together: an increase in a voter-approved millage for public safety in the amount of $2 million, a review of administrative fees, licenses, and permits generating $150,000 in revenue. The city received grants totaling $1.8 million. The elimination of 9 vacant city positions, saving an estimated $700,000. These are accomplishments related to the city's financial bottom line. Numerous other steps have been taken to enhance city services and improve the lives of our residents. For a complete listing of our accomplishments, visit the city's website at cityofallenpark.org and click on the Emergency Financial Manager page. A video of the February 18th Town Hall meeting is also available on the site. Moreover, we continue to provide for full transparency with town hall meetings, coffee times, press releases, updates at city council meetings, emergency manager community updates, and a wealth of information on the city's website. We have high expectations for 2014. We will continue to take the steps necessary to resolve the financial emergency and transition to local control. With that, it will be important to lay out the city's future through a visioning and strategic planning process, which is currently underway. The Allen Park Advisory Committee will be championing that process. And if you would like to be involved or need more information, feel free to contact my office. This is a unique and remarkable city, thanks to its residents and community pride. As always, we appreciate your support as we work together to move the city forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and just explain, we did have a retreat, as Mr. Beaton said, 2 Saturdays ago. One of the things that came out of that was a discussion that maybe we need to talk about the conduct of the public meeting. First thing, you should understand that the rules do apply to the elected officials, appointed officials, commissioners, as well as the general public. It applies to all of us. And that was one of the things that we made clear at our retreat. But I think one of the things that becomes obvious as you sit up here is that an emergency manager is here. She is here at the appointment of the state. They are her bosses. That's who she reports to. And as frustrating as it may get to any group, because her reporting is to someone different than what you might expect from elected officials who would be conducting similar business. We would have to conduct that in a much more public fashion than is being conducted. That's just the rules that we all have to live by. The citizens, when they turned down that millage 3 times and the 2 largest bargaining units didn't want to open their contracts, gave the city no choice but to seek the protection of an emergency manager. If you watch in the papers, even Mr. Orr with his powers in bankruptcy, he had the new mayor, because they have a strong mayor government there, and gave them some day-to-day operating functions. But it's pretty clear that that was an agreement between the mayor and the emergency manager. I don't know how well that sits with his council that he has to work with, but that's how that was made. I think Detroit's unique in that respect because we see it all in the paper. But if you watch the other communities that have emergency managers, they operate very similar to the way you see this here. And it is frustrating for everybody. I don't think there's anybody up here who isn't frustrated at one time or another with the pace of how things go or the information that comes out. But I think we created the necessity for an emergency manager. We ought to work with that plan, and we ought to do everything to support it, to make it work, because that's how this city is going to best go forward and succeed. And so I hope you'll keep that in mind as you look at the days ahead and the things that you either see in the paper or wish you saw in the paper or wish you heard here or didn't hear. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session. Moved by Mr. Keenan, supported by Mr. DiGiulio. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We
need a roll call.
Oh, it's a roll call, excuse me.
And this one will start, shall we convene into closed session?
7:45.
For the purpose of, when I put that, sale or lease of property under 115-268. Start with Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Keenan.
Yes.
Mayor Mategas.
Yes.
Councilman Cisco.
Yes.
Councilman Templin.
Yes.
Councilman DiGiulio.
No.
The yeses have it. We shall convene into executive session.